All right, guys, this is your boy Ligo One Half Enduro. Hope you guys are doing well. I want to thank everybody out there for watching the video last night. And there's more stuff that comes out. So there's another video about the screen that's pretty good. So I might throw that in there, whatever. And of course, this is hopefully we are ready for tomorrow for the you know, Mario Kart Direct, where we figure out and find out a lot of stuff out of Mario Kart. And I am thinking after this, Nintendo might go ahead and say what the pre-orders are going to set up to be because, seeing how things are. Let's see how it's going on. So we'll figure that out tomorrow and hope everybody, hope it's a good direct. That's all I can say. Learn about information. So speaking about information, as you can see on the screen, and we're going to talk about this. So I want to see all the people. Again, I want to see all the people. You've seen me done videos, a couple videos about the PlayStation Pro. Doesn't bother me because I don't have to buy it, so I don't care. If people want to buy it, they buy it. That's their money. I've said it at the beginning, and you guys know I've been saying it from the beginning. If you don't like it, don't buy it. If you don't want to buy the Switch 2, don't buy the Switch 2. I'm not knocking you or nothing. If you can't afford it, it's not because you're poor. It's that you take care of your needs before you take care of your wants. It's nothing about being poor. None about that. You have a privilege to go and buy this if you want it. If you don't want to buy it, don't. It's a choice. Be a customer, not a consumer. Right? But I want to see the same fervor, the same energy, because Last of Us came out with 100 and whatever. Now that's kind of weird, and again, they could do what they want to do. I think it's $110 for Last of Us remastered again, 4K, 60 something. Like, it's so funny. They're milking this game. This game has been remastered, what, 5, 6 times? And y'all talk about Nintendo. Oh, Nintendo, same color code, blah, 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 like the fake business said and everything. But Last of Us coming out, the same game, a little bit up res, a little more better textures, a little more this. That's literally same coat of paint. And they asking for a lot more. But again, be a customer. If you think you want to play Last of Us like that for that, go right ahead. I ain't. And I think that's one of the reasons, because Druckmann effed himself over. Now he can't do Last of Us 3 because, like I say, you took away, people hate Last of Us 2. Majority of people hate Last of Us 2. I don't like Last of Us 2. I didn't play it. I saw somebody else play it and I was like, what? Did they mess with the story? And I have a PlayStation 5 and I could go buy Last of Us 1, the original one, but I can't support nonsense. So here you go. If you don't want to support Nintendo, don't buy their console. Don't buy their games. It's so simple. I don't know why people gotta shout it from the flipping mountains. I don't like Nintendo. Okay, get your ass down for your cause an avalanche. Shit. But let's listen to this. This is forecast. This is more business sense video from Nintendo forecast, and then we're gonna go into something else. Cause Yushia Shido said Nintendo is not Nintendo. Okay, you're correct. They're not. Nintendo's lost their identity being not Nintendo. But who forced the market to be the way it is? And I want to say this, which is true. So you want Nintendo to be different, while you and Xbox go back and forth being fighting for the same shit. And when a lot of people buy your shit, then you're surprised the one that was keeping the creativity locked down is changing a little bit towards that. And now you're feeling, oh, you're trying to say it's kind of bad. Again, rules for me, not for me, that it don't apply. It's just so weird. But anyway, let's go.
For all the talks that Switch 2 would no longer be the lowest cost model on the games market, perhaps that won't be the case. Sony have made the decision to bolster the price of the PlayStation 5 models in the UK, Europe, Australia and New Zealand. The reason given by Isabel Tomatis, the Vice President of Global Marketing at Sony Interactive Entertainment, was a backdrop of a challenging economic environment, including high inflation and fluctuating exchange rates. The insinuation by many appears to have been that they are ameliorating the tariff risk in America by raising prices across the board. Do these claims stack up, and what are the implications for the console market and its prices as a consequence? First, then, let's take Sony's assertions on their own terms and see what we can make of them, beginning with inflation. debuting in the UK at £360 in 2020, the PlayStation 5 Digital already got a price bump to £390 in 2022, and now will take 42,999 of your best English pennies, £429.99, to purchase. Of course, £360 adjusted for inflation in UK terms is £449, so this is still a below inflation increase.
Nice,
In
yeah.
Australia, the launch price was $750 Australian dollars, and it bumped up to $800, and now comes to $830 following this more recent price hike. With full inflation taken into account, however, the Australian price would be $895. So yes, just on inflation terms, their console is still a better deal now for consumers than it was in 2020.
Wow. Ain't it crazy of all these prices? 800 something dollars you're gonna pay for stuff. Like I said again, exchange rate. This is why I said to a lot of you, a lot of Americans out there and British and everybody too, because it's 800 and in other countries you're gonna hear more. Yeah, we are a percentile. We're privileged. It's a luxury. We are the top 1%, 1,000,000% that enjoy games. Like the video I did last Friday, my generation N. I am happy that I can afford luxury to whatever, luxury gaming. But even I am cheap. Even I boss. Even I don't pay everything for full price. But this right here, I know what it is. I know what I'm getting from this quality market, so I pay. Excuse me. If I don't see the quality, then I don't buy it. And I think y'all should make the same decision as well too. If you think the Switch 2 on a PlayStation or an Xbox is not worth it, you love gaming, you go get the best value for your buck. Do that. You need to make that decision.
And yes, of course, this measure doesn't take into account affordability in the marketplace, though that is something that I will be exploring soon in a couple of other videos. But while we all may wish that every good would receive price cuts, inflationary increases are essentially just pegging the price at the same real-term costs.
Allegra is the allergy relief with 0% brain interference, so you...
Okay. So
Costs. Evidently, inflation affects not just the sale price, but also the manufacturing cost. This is rather more difficult to determine, with PlayStation 5s being made in China and Japan, and therefore it is probably the exchange rate risks that are more clear to see. Clearly, Chinese PlayStation 5s are going to be far more expensive to import to the US. In Japan, on the other hand, I imagine that the company had hoped to offset the far higher costs of operation by exploiting the lower yen. And this brings us to the second risk that Tomatis identified, fluctuating exchange rates. The yen has already strengthened against the dollar, going back more or less to the point where it was in August and September last year, where there was some market turmoil. It is the explicit aim of both Japan and America to strengthen the yen and deflate the dollar. Therefore, while Japan may not immediately face tariffs quite as stringent as China on their product for America, it doesn't really help the company that much if they're effectively losing a lot of money in currency exchange. Large companies can always find ways to hedge against this kind of risk, but the hedge itself is costly, and the problem is that these changes can be quite abrupt. Now, it does.
I still never understand as a company and as a business. I know you try to get your stockholders and all that stuff, and I hate that shit to a degree, but I get it. But it's so weird that Nintendo's in the same situation too. Y'all make y'all make a lot of money by making sure that the American dollar is more powerful than your own money. So you kind of hurting your own citizens just to make it. So Nintendo's got its own greed. It's a corporation. You know that. So, but I never understand. And then we got Americans who stupidly don't understand how certain things that you will buy stuff for 60, 70, $1,000, $2,000 when you could buy it for like 100 or whatever stuff like that. Now this electronics, I can't say nothing about that. But you have a choice to do. You could take a TLC TV or Vizio TV, and I bought Vizio. I don't think I've bought a super brand LG whatever in a while. Now I ain't gonna lie, the brand this is the biggest brand I have in my house. The biggest brand I'm talking about, like cost per brand is a name. and I would think it would be KitchenAid. Now, I have a KitchenAid fridge that costs a lot of money. Didn't pay that much money, but it costs a lot of money. I have a KitchenAid mixer. Now that one I do like, and that's worth the cost of that because you can fix it. You can fix a KitchenAid. I bought a KitchenAid. I got messed up, and instead of me going back, whatever, I fixed it for about $20. Of course, I take it all apart and put things together and know what you're doing. And look, for me, I'm a tinkerer. But yeah. But that's the sickness about it. You want your currency to be weaker to the American dollar so you could make a lot of money because you sell to Americans because America is a consumer nature. That part is true. We consume. We don't want to build nothing on our own, which is a weird-ass way to do a country. And again, some things you can't get here. Some fruits, some stuff, I understand that. You bargain with that. The other stuff that we can get here, yes, work it in a way that you could get the money and do stuff. The government could do that too. The government don't care because they want money as well too. That's why you should try to bring back a lot of jobs in America, and you don't have to pay. I think you ain't paying them $1 or $10 a day. You make everybody pays the minimum wage or a little bit higher. But again, you stop at unemployment, whatever. People are like, well, I do not work for that job. Okay, then. If government take away that unemployment, not Social Security, food stamps and all the other shit, what are you gonna do? We got our safety net is too flipping big.
Necessarily follow that Sony's strategy will be Nintendo's, as the two companies, while both exposed to economic circumstances, of course, are exposed in different ways. Although the parent company is Japanese, Sony Interactive Entertainment is based in the US, headquartered in California, and a good number of its PlayStation studios are US based. Their profits flow to the US. Japan is a smaller market for PlayStation 5 compared to the Switch. While exchange rates in...
Which is crazy, the thing that Sony left Japan to go to America and become a little wokeified, in my opinion, but wait, just so funny.
And tariff stress import costs to the US, the home market does offer a certain degree of protection for the American consumer. $1 spent on PlayStation in Wyoming will go into the pocket of Sony in California, sure, subject to retailer cuts, taxes and so on, but not subject to currency pressures. This may give Sony a bit more leeway to defend the US with regard to prices, and this is one reason possibly why they've held off on US pricing changes at the moment. Of course, depending on the final settlements with regards to tariffs, they may need to put large surcharges on their US consoles in any event, so another reason may be that they don't want to have to spike the price twice.
Step into a world of endless possibility.
I kind of wish that, the forecast didn't use a lot of, but whatever. I already played because I want to give them, I'm using their videos as well. So even though I'm not making any money off of this stuff, but everybody has commercials. Anyway, keep on going.
Nintendo's case, they make 70% of their income outside Japan, but this is denominated into yen when it comes back to Nintendo's balance sheets. The last few years have been a historic high point for the company, and yes, they've never been so profitable, but also the exchange rate has never in recent decades been so favorable to a company like Nintendo. They appear to have built their hedge into the new system's price structure with a far cheaper home market Japanese system. In just 2 weeks since they announced the system's price, the yen is 3% stronger against the dollar. A 40% strengthening would only take it back to the situation at the start of the decade. A 90% strengthening would take it back to the days of the Wii U, where, quite aside from issues with that console at launch, they were also gaining about half as much for every international sale in strict currency conversion terms. It was a very, very difficult time for...
Another thing that I've said before, they were building studios, there was changes, they were building studios, they were moving people around, which takes money, building new systems so people can make games. And again, we gotta forget the market back then was weird when Japan's yen was higher than it was now. It's like I said, the Wii U was not the problem really per se. It has its own faults, don't get me wrong, but it was not the problem. The problem was too much circumstances, which again, Nintendo, in my opinion, did a good job of managing. I'll do whatever, managing.
Nintendo, given the exchange rate backdrop. By this point, the Japanese price advantage would have more than eroded in relative cost terms, and the consoles would be cheaper for Nintendo to manufacture in exchange rate terms, since most of the production takes place abroad. If we return to those days, they just won't make nearly as much from foreign console sales, which is still 70% of their income, and may be pushed back, as they were in the 3DS and Wii U era, to selling their consoles at a loss. The fact that they don't tend to do this does give them a larger layer of insulation from needing to make abrupt price increases compared to Sony, who like to use their consoles as more of a loss leader. It strikes me that a certain margin is built into Nintendo's international prices to account for this possibility, while the reverse is built into the Japanese price. A year or so hence, heck, potentially only a few weeks hence, that difference could well evaporate. I think Nintendo likes to hold the line on its prices, but it also would not want to be in a situation of raising them too often. And from what I can determine, when it does change prices in particular locations, it tends to try to make these changes in the January to March quarter, which is quieter anyway. In other words, it aims to lock in its prices for the holidays earlier in the year. Clearly, if there was a very drastic change and a very sudden change, they wouldn't be able to wait. But Furukawa confirmed in an investor Q&A at the end of last year that he was not at that time considering price rises for the Switch. Makes sense in terms of trying to drive the biggest Japanese install base possible early on to the system, because in the next few years, Japanese game sales are going to be a far more secure source of revenue than international sales. I think their top priority in the coming year, with the international markets being uncertain, will be to ensure that in Japan at least, they have a huge and accelerated head start. Yes, the US is a bigger market than Japan, but Japan is also a very substantial part of Nintendo's sales. If they can accelerate to mass adoption of the Switch 2 in Japan against the backdrop of a strengthening yen, so they'll be making more money from those sales, and they can still sell a great many games off the back of it to Japanese consumers, it gives Nintendo the luxury of time to assess how to crack the other markets.
And the thing about it, again, you will see that that's why Nintendo made a region lock Nintendo Switch. For that reason. That's why they make a Japan region Nintendo lock Switch too. Now you have other people who's like, oh my god, why don't Nintendo does that to bring the price down? Why don't they do that for America? Again, I stated before, y'all bitched and moaned for Nintendo to be region free, multi-languages. Y'all, and then now you want to go back because you would save you what, $25, maybe $30 at the most? Maybe 50 at the most, I should say, no, 50 at the most. Man, gamers don't know what the hell they want.
It's still a huge problem for the company, but it would be a problem more largely for another day if they have truly great take-up in Japan.
Basically, and that's the part that annoys the heck out of everything.
Truly great take-up in Japan. Currently, games have not been swept up in Sony's price hikes, but the same rationale that Sony are applying to console prices would easily apply to games as well. It may be that they continue to try to shield the US market from negative impacts by absorbing the costs across their global line, but in US terms, a $70 game from 2020 would be priced at $87 this year. A bump to $80 or $90 for major new titles would follow their logic of tracking inflation. Yes, it would aggravate the core market to raise the prices now, but as Nintendo have demonstrated, they will gain no special thanks from freezing their top prices for over a decade, and the fact is that by 2027, when the next console is released, just inflationary prices would probably dictate a retail price for new games of $90 or $95. They may be better off, therefore, laying the groundwork for that now by hitting the $80 barrier at least with a new game this year. As for Nintendo, I maintain that Nintendo's price hikes are actually unlikely to dent them all that drastically in the long term. They may get some flack from appearing to be the first mover, but in the long term, I think this will quickly be forgotten in the coming years. For one thing, while the Mario...
Yeah, because people just, again, you're a consumer, so that's what it is. And again, that he said it what I said, the whole freeze. It was 10 years, it was almost 20 years. And I think we locked ourselves in a problem which we know is going to happen. And here we go, because before that, we was night, then we went down, and went back up again. So yeah, it's weird, but that's how the market works.
Kart bundle is tagged as a limited edition. I don't personally believe that this is their intention for a second. They simply wish to have the option to remove it from the market if things take a negative turn and then reissue it with different pricing. But that does mean that nobody who wants Mario Kart World need pay $80. And since Jamboree is widely owned already, most people won't be paying a single $80 charge for that game either, even if the effective price of the upgrade does bring it up to $80. If the whole of the market maintains even just broadly inflationary uplifts, Nintendo soon won't be seen as outliers or even especially expensive for long. And at present, I'm not sure there are many times when people will be paying $80 game prices. Will this all hurt sales? Probably.
Yes.
But of course, the bet will be that entertainment products like games generally have strong enough demand that the price hike will still bring in more money even from slightly fewer customers. Satoru Iwata's view was certainly that consoles had a great deal of resilience because they are relatively less expensive entertainment sources compared to many others, especially when adjusted for the hours played. If the perception entrenches that consoles don't become less expensive over time, but can actually increase in price, there is even the possibility that the price works for Nintendo in that people may feel that they would rather go into the system sooner rather than later by waiting for a deal that might, after all, never come. In particular, if Nintendo has a price they feel is defensible, not just for the next year, but for several years to come, then they may ultimately be able to offer greater stability. I also think that Sony may look to benefit in the next few months from the widespread perception that the PlayStation 5 price is about to increase by pushing greater volume into their American market. For more on related topics, do check out the video.
Yeah, and that is true. So understand how you gotta work Nintendo forecast. What does PlayStation Pro means for Nintendo? That was a good video. Mario Kart DC plans. No, I did not watch that, so I might gotta check that out. And Sony's handheld plans could affect Nintendo. Kind of, not really. Not really. Let me see something here.
To me, it was a bit, mixed message from Nintendo. In a sense, I think Nintendo is losing their identity. In my opinion, for me, they are always about creating some new experience, designing hardware and games, together to create something that amazing, new experience. But Switch 2, as we all anticipated, is a better Switch, right?
Now, our buddy Shuei isn't exactly wrong. Nintendo were being pretty uncharacteristic in that direct. When do you ever hear Nintendo talk about resolution and frame rates? But they said it repeatedly over the course of that presentation.
解像度やフレームレートが向上し、追加ストーリーが登場します。4K、60fps で没入感のある世界を探索するか、フル HD、120fps の滑らかなアクションを楽しむか。
It was really weird. Nintendo were using language that PlayStation and Xbox usually use. And the actual direct itself was hosted by the hardware engineers, which isn't too uncommon. The Switch one had a very similar thing. But back then, they were talking about the features of the system, not the features of the hardware and what it's capable of. Whereas here it was like 120 FPS, HDR, 4K. It was a lot of very un-Nintendo things, and I can understand just paying attention to those bits why I would feel like this is an iterative Switch that doesn't really do anything new and feels safe. But I don't think that's really the extent of it, okay? So let's talk about what the hardware itself is doing that allows games to grow. And I think looking at the first-party Nintendo side, look at Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza, those games aren't ultra-detailed. You compare them to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Mario Odyssey, and yeah, there's a graphical evolution, but it's not a vast one. Where those games have evolved is in the gameplay. So Mario Kart has gone open world, and Donkey Kong.
Which Nintendo, that's, if I have to tell anybody else, that's where Nintendo excel at. Their gameplay. Like their games were games, but the way you play the games, the way you interact with the games, the way you see how the games would be, all those are different styles where they tend to accelerate in new IPs, try to get them to hook on. They're good at that too. If they don't that all the IPs go great, and we already know there's a lot of IPs that Nintendo have not touched for a while, but that's where the bread and butter that makes Nintendo.
It's gone bashy. You can just bash and destroy everything. Those two games are using the hardware, but not for visual prowess. They're using it for a gameplay potential, which is very Nintendo. But it's not just about how they're using the growth in hardware capability, but it's also about what you can do with the system now. And I think the reason that this doesn't feel gimmicky is because it's already established on PC, right? Mouse controls. Mouse controls are the go-to for a shooter. They allow new genres like RTS games or simulation games. It doesn't feel gimmicky because we've known about it since, well, the beginning of video games. But the fact that they've put it into the Joy-Con, it is a gimmick. The Joy-Con can be turned on its side and become a mouse. That's something that no other console is doing, and it is going to allow for a plethora of games you wouldn't usually see on a console. But also it allows regular games to use mouse controls. So Metroid Prime 4, you can play with a mouse. Call of Duty, when it eventually comes along on Switch 2, will probably have mouse controls. It is a gimmick. It's something that makes Switch 2 different to the other consoles, and it does make the games different too. And where it evolves beyond PC is both Joy-Con have the mouse sensors. So for games like Dragon Drive, you're using inputs that have the mouse sensors. So for games like Dragon Drive, you're using inputs that haven't really been used before. You could plug in two USB mice into your PC, but no one's really doing that, and so developers don't make games for that. But now it's just built into the system. So if developers want to make a Switch 2 specific game that uses both mice, they can make a very innovative one like this, where you're literally simulating moving wheelchair wheels using the mice.
Which is a workout. I'll tell you that. It's a workout. Seeing that all the people talk about playing Dragon Drive, like their hands get tired and stuff like that. And here's the thing, that's true. And think about the people who do that for real life. Oh my goodness, their hands is our feet. So yeah.
If they're your hands. And we're seeing plenty of other games using it for like a left hand and a right hand. There's a bunch of Mario Party Jamboree mini games, and then there's also that mouse game. It's called Mousework. It's like part-time UFO meets Snipperclips. And it's both for simultaneous mouse play, but also multiplayer mouse play on the same console. And we just don't see that on PCs. We don't see it on consoles. It's very much a new premise. The only way you're doing that on PC is when you're playing games online. So not only is it giving you new capabilities for local play, but it's also making that kind of gameplay just more inviting and more likely for developers to even utilize in the first place. So you definitely are getting new experiences there. You're evolving existing games. But the reason it doesn't feel gimmicky is because these games are already designed around them. So Civ 7 coming to Switch 2 with mouse support, like that's a big deal. That's the unabridged PC version on a console. Sims 4 will probably come to Switch 2, an unabridged PC version. And that is huge. You're not adapting this game for a controller anymore. That is a massive, massive thing. And it is an evolution that the Switch 1 couldn't do. And there's more to it than that as well. There's also Game Share, which is a feature that I think we should be talking about way more. But it's kind of unclear what it was. But we know a lot more about Game Share now. And we've just learned that Split Fiction uses Game Share. And you may be wondering, who cares? With Split Fiction, you get a guest version anyway. Why would I need to stream a version to somebody else? But here's the really exciting thing, is in Split Fiction, you can send a copy to the Switch 1. So let's say you and your partner are lounging around wanting to play Split Fiction together on Switch 2, but you don't want to deal with split screen. You want your own screen each, but you've only got one Switch 2. Well, you can just send your Switch 2 game to your old Switch 1, and one of you can play on that one of you can play on the other one, and you've got your two dedicated full-screen displays with one copy of the game. Fast Fusion's another one. You can send both a local and an online copy to someone, just to stream as if it's download play. You're not downloading anything, it's instantaneous. I think this is a pretty big deal. If Halo comes to...
It's so funny, a lot of people don't talk about that. And yes, if Halo does come to that with Microsoft, you could see that work. Oh yeah, multiplayer screen. Here's the thing, we had that with the Wii U. Oh man. Me and my sister loved like Nintendo Land and Black Ops and another game I forgot. That it was Hyrule Warriors. Like everybody had their own screen and go where they want to go. That was pretty damn good. That was really, really good. And Nintendo needs to do that with Hyrule Warriors and stuff like that. They need Hyrule Warriors needs to have that original Age of Calamity. You need that, and to be good too, because then the person have a Switch, they could go where they want to go. I have a Switch, I can go where I want to go. That's what it should be. Back symmetrical, double screen, stuff like that. That's what's needed. Oh, how the heck that? Oh, Lord. I tell you.
Switch 2. Not only will we get mouse support, big deal, but you can also just gather around together, send a game of Blood Gulch to your friend, and just start playing without screen peeking. It's reinventing LAN in a way, but not everybody needs their own copy of the game. It's download, play LAN, evolved. Yeah. Very cool. I can't wait to see how more games utilize this, because the list is pretty small right now. But all of these more gimmicky features are things you can just slide into regular games. Whereas you look at the Wii U, the gamepad, there's a lot of games that just don't use the gamepad. They put a big logo, or it's just black, or it's just like a bigger map. There's not really a utility.
They had, and unlike you, sir, no, you're wrong. The games that I played, it uses the screen very well. So that's one of the reasons I love the Wii U. That's why like I said, an innovative and how to play games, the Wii U is my better console. But the multi games that I've played, that's why Switch became my #1 console, because I have a lot of games to play.
For the gamepad unless you're building the game around it. So if you're putting on a multi-platform game, like, what are you going to do with that thing? Whereas here, just game share, mouse controls, very easy to implement in just about any game. So have Nintendo stopped being different? Have they stopped being fun and wacky and out of left field? I don't think so. I mean, in terms of first-party software, what we've seen so far is they are innovating with that hardware rather than just giving you Donkey Kong with a million fibers of fur. They are actually changing the gameplay of these games to fit the new hardware, while also giving you these brand new inputs for a console, and also evolving what a mouse can even be further than what PC is doing. I think that's really exciting. I think that's really different. And while it may seem like there isn't like a big innovation like putting a touchscreen in there for the first time, or motion controls in there for the first time, or going hybrid for the first time, it is more iterative, absolutely. Yeah. I still think
And I've been saying that from the get-go. I've been saying that all the time. It's gonna be more derivative to the last console. Before we switched to was now, before we went and switched Pro, I said Nintendo's next console will be that, because my stand was always when we got the Switch 1 for my friend Kenji, who gave me the Switch 1, I was like, okay. And then me and my sister was like, oh, we're going to play the game. Because we're like, okay, we're going to go in the game room and play games. But I was like, damn, nah, this is going to be more of like a personal console. A lot of people use it as one console of the game. And that's another thing, a lot of these people talking about, like, yeah. See, I use mine as a personal and as a console. Some people use it as a personal only. And some people use it as just a home console. My next door neighbors, they use it as a home console. So it's just perfect for certain things. All they need is one console, and they play games all they want with the kids and everything. While me, I have to have one, of my sisters have to have one, because we play different games at different times.
What they are doing here is going to benefit the developers and us more than a lot of these other things. Because when Nintendo is different, they're also met with a lot of criticism. I don't want to be standing up and waggling a remote all the time. That's the kind of criticism you heard frequently, and then when they move away from that, it's like, well, where's wacky Nintendo gone?
Thank you.
I think there's a really cool middle ground here. It's not too out there, but it's also out there enough that the games will be drastically quite different, and in some cases superior. Like, let's take Minecraft, for example. You update that with the Joy-Con 2, allow mouse support. Is there really much reason to play Minecraft on PS5 over Switch 2 at that point? You're probably still getting 4K 60 FPS. only you now have an integrated mouse. That's just kind of a big benefit. And there's even some other games, like when Call of Duty eventually comes along, let's say it hits 1080p on the Switch 2, but it's 4K on PS5. Does that matter much to you when one of them has just the more beneficial input?
Yeah, there you go. Because when I would play Modern Warfare on the Wii, and Modern Warfare 3, and Black Ops 1, you think I'd give a damn crack about the graphics? Blah, blah, blah. No. I was like, yeah, did the graphics look different? Hell yeah. But then I had fun playing because I could use the gun, the remote to shoot where I wanted to shoot and stuff. Oh, man, that was fun. And that's what it is. And from since then, well, you know. Hey, all I could just say is just enjoy your games. That's it. See what's going on. Enjoy the games on all consoles. Jeez.